Psalms 78. God's guidance of his people in spite of their unfaithfulness. Listen, O my people, to my instruction. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known. Our fathers have told us. We will not conceal them from their children, but to the generation to come to the praises of the Lord and his strength and his wondrous works that he has done. For he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he had commanded our fathers, that they shall teach their children, that the generation to come might know, even the children yet to be born, that they may arise and tell them to their children, so they should put their confidence in God, and not yet the works of God, but keep his commandments, and not be like their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that did not prepare its heart, and whose spirit was not faithful to God. The sons of Ephraim were equipped with bows, yet they turned their back in the day of battle. They did not keep the covenant of God, and refused to walk in his law. They forgot his deeds and the miracles that he had shown them. He wrought wonders before their fathers in the land of Egypt, in the field of Zon, and divided the sea, caused them to pass through. And he made waters stand up like a heap, and he led them with a cloud by day, and all night with the light of fire. He split rocks in the wilderness, and gave them abundant drink like ocean depths. And he brought forth streams also from the rock, and caused waters to run down like rivers. Yet they still continue to sin against him, to rebel against the Most High in the desert. And in the heart they put God to the test by asking food according to their desire. Then they spoke against God. They said, "Can God prepare a table in the wilderness? Behold, he struck a rock, so that waters gushed out, and streams were overflowing. Can he give bread also? Will he provide meat for his people?" Therefore the Lord heard and was filled with wrath, and a fire was kindled against Jacob, and anger was mounted against Israel, because they did not believe in God, and they did not trust in his salvation. Yet he commanded the clouds above, and opened up the doors of heaven, and it rained down manna upon them to eat, and gave them food from heaven. Man did eat bread of the angels, and sent them food in abundance. He caused the east wind to blow in the heavens, and his power he directed the south wind. He rained meat upon them like dust, even winged fowl, like the sand of the seas. Then he let them fall in the midst of their camp, round about their dwellings. So they ate, and they were filled, and their desire he gave to them. Before they have satisfied their desire, while the food was still in their mouths, the anger of God rose against them, and killed some of their stoutest ones, and subdued the choice men of Israel. In spite of all this, they still sinned, and did not believe in his wondrous works. He brought their days to an end of fertility, and their years of sudden terror. When he killed them, they sought him, and returned and searched diligently for God. And they remembered that God was their rock, and the Most High God, their Redeemer. But they deceived him with their mouths, and lied to him with their tongue. And their heart was not steadfast toward him, nor were they faithful in his covenant. But he, being compassionate, forgave their iniquity, and did not destroy them. And he restrained his anger, and did not arouse his wrath. Thus he remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passes and does not return. How often they rebelled against him in the wilderness, and grieved him in the desert. And again they tempted God, and pained the Holy One of Israel. They did not remember his power, the day when he redeemed them from the adversary, when he performed his signs in Egypt, and his marvels in the field of Zon, and turned their rivers to blood, and their streams they could not drink, and sent among them swarms of flies which devoured them, and frogs which destroyed them. He gave also their crops to grasshoppers, and the product of their labor to locusts. He destroyed their vines with hailstones, and their sycamore trees with frost. He gave over their cattle to hailstones, and their herds of bolts of lightning. He set upon them his burning angel, fury and indignation and trouble, a band of destroying angels. He leveled a path for his anger. He did not spare the soul from death, but he gave over their life to a plague, and smited all the firstborn of Egypt, the first issue of their fertility, and the tents of Ham. But he led them forth in his own people like sheep, and guided them in a wilderness like flock, and led them to safety, since they did not fear, but the sea engulfed their enemies. So he brought them to his holy land, to his hill country, which his right hand had gained. He also driven out the nations before them, and apportioned them by inheritance, by measurement, and made their tribes of Israel dwell in their tents. And they tempted and rebelled against the Most High, and did not keep his testimonies, and turned back and acted treacherous like their fathers. They turned aside like a treacherous bow, for they provoked him with their high places, and aroused his jealousy with their graven images. When God heard, he was filled with wrath, and greatly abhorred Israel, so that he abandoned the dwelling place of Sheol, and the tent which he had pitched among his men, and gave up his strength to captivity, his glory into the hand of adversaries. He also delivered his people to the sword, and was filled with wrath at his inheritance. Fire devoured his young men. His virgins had no wedding songs. His priests fell by the sword. His widows could not weep. Then the Lord awoke as if from sleep, like a warrior overcome by wine. He drove his adversaries backwards. He put them in everlasting reproach. He also rejected the tent of Joseph, and did not choose the tribe of Ephraim, but chose the tribes of Judah, Mount Zion, which he loved. And he built his sanctuary like the heights, like the earth, which he had founded forever. He also chose David, his servant, and took from him the sheepfolds, from the care of the ewes with suckled lambs. He brought him to shepherd Jacob his people, and Israel his inheritance. So he shepherded them according to his integrity of his heart, and guided them with his skillful hands. Amen.